Let's pick up on this interesting conversation. People born in this millennium, they have a good chance of living to 100. That's 40 years beyond the official retirement age of 60 years. What does this mean in terms of retirement? Is 60 being enforced, and do we need to look at a new retirement age? And to speak to us about this is the Chief Operations Officer at Digital Skills Academy at MindWorks, Martin Pienaar. Good morning to you, sir. What an interesting conversation this is going to be. Let's start with
Good morning, Xoli.
Let's start with the retirement age. So, in South Africa, my recollection says 65 is the retirement age. Do you think that that still holds true?
Very much so. So we're seeing a lack of initiative on the part of corporates to move that retirement age up, even though, over the last 50 or 100 years, as you've pointed out, our retirement ages has moved markedly. Governments also have retirement ages for retirement funding, for when retirement funding can kick in tax-free. So I think both government and corporates need to think in a different way, because we're definitely living longer. I mean, if 100 years ago you had a 1% chance of making 100, now greater than 50% chance of making 100. So we're definitely living longer.
Yeah. Let's then talk about the financial impact of longevity. As you and I agree, people are living longer beyond their retirement age. What do those people do? What's the impact here financially?
Well, I think there's major impact. I read a stat last week which said that 33% or a third of payslips in South Africa have no retirement funding deduction at all. So, a big chunk of our workforce is not saving for their futures. And actually, if you do a calculation, if you've got to manage your retirement for almost 40 years, you have to be saving 40% of your current income over the duration of your career in order to be able to make ends meet in retirement. So I think we can safely say that very few of us are saving that much money on a monthly basis.
Yeah, which means then that people, I'm sorry to cut in, I thought you had finished your train of thought there. And so that immediately links to another conversation that's got to be had to say, if you have reached your retirement age and you have retired, but you're just finding that your financial needs are not being met post-retirement, it means you've got to go and find work somewhere. And because you are of retirement age, that doesn't help you, does it? Are companies amenable to taking someone who's beyond the age of 65?
I think that's where we all have to think out of the box. And so once a mandatory retirement age has been reached, there's no reason why somebody couldn't retire but then contract back to that company in a consulting capacity. So there's definitely opportunities to come back to companies in a different way of contracting rather than permanent employment. So companies need to think about gig work or contract work, people coming in on a project basis to fulfill a need. Coming back to, because they've got particular skills that are required, as Eskom is bringing retired engineers back into their workforce now, what other companies need skills that are leaving because of this mandatory retirement age.
Yeah.
But people could also think about maybe going into a different line of work. So you might not be able to achieve the salary that you were earning in your last month before retirement, but you could maybe be doing something else that causes you to eat into your retirement funding at a slower rate because you're earning something rather than nothing.
Yeah, and there are those who will probably think that a 65-year-old may not necessarily be as technically savvy, and we know that technology in nowadays, it advances very quickly. How would a person who's over the age of 65 deal with such skepticism to say, you're a dinosaur, you can't contribute meaningfully in today's job or world of work? How do those people make themselves relevant in the workplace?
Xoli, I think we've got to start thinking about that right now. So we don't have to wait until we get to 65 to think about what technology skills we need to do our jobs properly. So we're seeing lots of jobs leaving the system because of technology. So, customers are moving to self-service. Robotics and other technologies are causing admin jobs to go away. Call centers are being downsized because those queues are being dealt with more efficiently. So I think the onus is on all of us to make sure that we can use the technology that's available now for us to do our jobs. We need to know what's coming down the track. 20 years ago, it might have been Microsoft Office. Today, if you can't extract data from a database and use that data to tell a story or to get decisions made, you're going to be falling behind. So my recommendation is that everybody understands what technology is used in their particular line of work and make sure that they are up to date with that, with that skill. Because if you are 65 years old and you can't use the technology, you're not going to be considered for the workforce going forward. So you have to prove to your employer that you can still add value and that you could leverage those technology tools to make yourself more productive in your role.
Yeah, and perhaps that is a good point to leave this conversation around career planning, given that we are in this age of centenarians, if that is the correct terminology to use, but also importantly, the art of learning new skills. Is there some advice you would have for people there?
Yeah, I just think the workplace is becoming more complex. We're seeing many different generations having to work together. Older people and younger people in one workforce. People working across different geographies. So I think that we have to have skills to manage teams in a very diverse environment. We have to have critical thinking skills. We have to have resilience, grit. So in addition to the technology skills, there's lots of other skills that we need to keep up to date in order to be successful in the workplace. And I think what's the great thing about where we are now is that we've got lots of this training ability is available online. So we can learn at our own pace in our own time. But I think we all need to be making that investment to make sure that we're keeping our skills up to date. And it's really difficult if you stop learning and then try to rekindle learning 20 years later. So my advice would be to keep on learning on an ongoing basis. And once you finish with your formal studies, learn in the workplace. And we can also learn from younger people coming into the workplace. Younger people can learn from older people. So that sort of cross-mentoring across generations will also be very important in the workplace.
So another day of industrial action may be on the cards. 3 labor union federations,